Some big news out of Washington today. President Donald Trump is not letting go of his claims about a rigged voting system, and now he's calling for a formal investigation. Trump claims that millions of illegal ballots cost him the popular vote, but Republicans and Democrats are unified in opposing those statements.
We're talking about a man who won the election and seems to be obsessed with the idea that he could not have possibly lost the popular vote without cheating and fraud. So I would urge the president to knock this off. This is going to erode his ability to govern this country if he does not stop it.
President Trump said depending on the result of the investigation, he would call for, quote, strengthening up voting procedures. Here in Hillsborough County, the Supervisor of Election says there's no widespread voter fraud in our area, and they work hard to keep it that way. News Channel 8's Rod Carter joins us now live from downtown Tampa to explain. Rod?
Hey, Jen, I talked to Craig Latimer. He's the Supervisor of Elections here in Hillsborough County, and he told me that they work very hard, put mechanisms in place to make sure that voter fraud doesn't occur. But he realizes nothing is foolproof and things do happen, but they're always at work in his office here on the 16th floor to make sure that the vote is kept safe. Late today, White House spokesman Sean Spicer announced President Donald Trump's tweet calling for a major investigation into alleged voter fraud goes far beyond last year's election. However, Hillsborough County Supervisor of Elections Craig Latimer largely dismisses any of those claims.
One of the things that we have here in Florida is a great identification law where numerous types of identification can be shown to vote. But, you know, it starts at registration.
Latimer told me although there are cases of voter fraud, it is not a widespread problem. On some level, some type of voter fraud does exist. I mean, there have been cases that where it's happened.
I do think that's fair. I think they're few and far between.
Latimer also says something called ERIC, Electronic Registration Information Center, does help. Although Florida is not a member state, the nationwide database reports that to date, it has helped some 21 member states identify millions of out-of-date registrations. And that includes more than 1 million voters who moved to different states but did not update their registration, 3.8 million people who moved within their state and didn't update that registration, and more than 92,000 duplicate registrations. To add to that, more than 166,000 deceased people still on the rolls.
You furnish your voter rolls and your driver's license rolls, and they're cross-matched through the system, and they're finding people that are registered in 2 states. They're not voting in 2 states, but they are registered in 2 states.
And again, that was something that was a part of the national conversation. A lot of people having duplicate registrations. Say you lived in the state of Georgia, then you moved to Florida. You never did cancel your registration to vote there, but you then have a registration to vote here. Does not necessarily mean, Jen, that fraud is actually going on unless this person or the person is trying to do something nefarious. It just means they have a duplicate registration, but they are working to try to get rid of all those duplicates and also make sure that people who have died are no longer on those rolls as well. Jen?
Right. Doesn't necessarily mean that someone is voting twice, but it does beg the question, Rod, why isn't Florida part of that ERIC system?
Well, there's this National Association of Florida Association of Supervisors of Election, and they're trying to get some legislative action to make sure that they do get to be a part of that. It basically shares information across the board, so people will then be able to know if someone moved here that they had a registration there, and they could get rid of that registration there. So just collecting the data is what they're hoping to do, and they're going to try to push the legislature to do something about that.
And it removes even the appearance of impropriety. Rod Carter, live for us in Tampa.
Right.
Rod, thank you very much, sir.